Hey artsy friends, welcome to my third composition notebook art journal series. I am working on the cover today. Normally I save this for last, but this is only my third video in the series. Well, technically fourth because I did a prep video. I seem to always be on a tight budget, so I got this piece from the dollar store. I paid now it's the $1.25 store. It's just a piece of wallpaper, like they sell it in sheets, and it's the perfect size to use as a covering for my composition notebook. So it's basically just a giant sticker. And I started by trying to line up one of the edges, but the sticker like stuck to it so fast that I kind of got a bubble when I laid it down that way. See the bubble? Oh no. But thankfully it did peel off pretty easily. So redo. This time I'm trying a different approach. I'm standing it up. This way I know that the bottom is going to line up perfectly. And then I think it gave me just a little better control. And so I can carefully press the sticker wallpaper around kind of slowly and move it out. So, and then once I did that, I flipped it over. And the reason I'm doing it closed is so to make sure that, as you go around the binding or the corner, that it doesn't, that's not too tight. So if you laid it down flat and then tried to close the book, you might get it a little too tight around the binding. So anyway, so then I'm just opening it up and there's a little bit of an edge. You can see in there too, it's gapping for now, but I think with time it'll work. I'm not too worried about that. So I'm going to just start cutting off the edges of the sticker, and it's pretty easy to work with. It's actually pretty thin. My only concern was that because it's designed as wallpaper, that it's going to be really like fingerprint resistant, and it might be also resistant to taking paint or whatever I'm going to put on it. So the next thing I'm going to do is get some sandpaper. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Right now I'm just smoothing it down. Doesn't it look pretty? You could just cover up a notebook like that and leave it. It's kind of cool. Okay, so I got some sandpaper and I'm just really lightly kind of just feeling it out so that I'm hoping this will just help the paint stick a little bit better. So I'm putting in some parchment paper is what I usually use to protect my other pages. And then I went out and bought a third neon blacklight color. I had the yellow and the orange, and I don't even remember where I got them. I used the yellow on a page, not even realizing what it was. Like I seriously don't even remember getting them. Once I discovered that, hey, I have this little blacklight flashlight that my daughter actually just got, it had a really cool effect on that page. So now I'm going to play with it some more because I think it would be really cool to have a really bright cover that glows under the blacklight. So I've used this little silicone brush before, and it takes a little bit of practice on how to use it to get the paint to smooth out nicely without it creating stripes, or you almost use it like a palette knife to get things on there smoothly. But for projects where you don't want brush strokes to show, this is one idea. You can also just use a makeup sponge is what I use a lot too to spread paint. I'm just creating color across the page diagonally, and I think the design underneath is kind of fun and reminds me of the wallpaper that I had in my basement in the 80s. And the bright pinks and the orange, and I'm going to do a yellow, kind of reminds me of rainbow sherbet. So I'm almost done, but I wanted to be able to get to that corner binding a little better. So I just took this container to put in the middle to kind of create a tent. And then I'm going to use a makeup sponge and just kind of touch up any areas that just didn't look right to me. And I'm fine with the colors kind of overlapping and blending. As you can see, like it's just kind of slopped down. So I don't mind if there's a little pink in the orange or a little orange in the yellow or whatever. And I'm also dabbing it to give it a little bit of texture. I'm just anticipating, you know, adding some layers, and I just want to make sure it's will take whatever the next layer is. So ta-da! Okay, I actually left it to dry overnight because I think this particular paint takes a little extra time. Now I'm going to print up a template to create my title. So I'm playing around with different fonts to see what I like. I'm going to be tracing around it, so I know I want something that's a little bit on the thicker side. And this just helps me to space my words just right and just keep, or the letters, and keep everything kind of cohesive. So I like this font and I like this look. It kind of goes with the background in my mind, like that kind of a little bit on that like 70s retro feel. And then I'm going to cut out around the title because what I'm going to do is trace around the words, and then I'm going to paint in the negative space in black so that the letters will show through, the paint will show through the letters. Does that make sense? So I'd already done it once, but I wanted to kind of show you what I did with the scissors. So I redid it for your enjoyment. So now I'm just trying to decide which one I like better. I think that one works fine. So this is, I call it tracing paper, but everybody's like, do you mean carbon paper? Or yes, it's carbon paper. And this is really helpful you can use this on any page. So I'm just using a dull pencil. I actually prefer a dull pencil because a really sharp one might sometimes tear. So I'm tracing around all of the lines of the letters, and then you can either remove the paper and just trace around the outside of shape, or I just use the graphite paper just to transfer it all. So then I am going in with a Posca marker to outline my letters, and then I'll be able to just use black paint to kind of fill in the larger spaces, because I want to keep the paint that's in my Posca markers to be used mainly for outlining and doodling and all of that. And so I don't want to overuse it in areas of large space where I don't need to. So black paint should be just fine, and they'll kind of just all look the same. When it's all done, like if you hold it up to the light and kind of look at it at an angle, you can tell the difference between the blacks from the black Posca and then the regular black paint. And it's one of those things that like you'd have to be really looking closely to tell and be looking for it, you know. So it'll look fine in the end. So I decided to give these Jelly Roll pens another try. I've always had this like frustration with white pens because they tend to work at first and then they just stop. But I watched a video and it was talking about just one of the keys is to use really light pressure. And so really I think that that's the trick for me. So I tried that, applied that, and it seemed to work just fine. So I just did a thin outline around the words, and now I'm just using a white Posca to create little dots. Isn't that cute? So I'm just trying to add interest to the page by creating some more lines and curves and circles. You can't go wrong with circles. I love circles. But I want to make sure that I don't overdo it because I do want quite a bit of the color to pop out. But I just love how black and white always brings out contrast. So I am loving it so far. So even though I'm designing my cover like a 2-page spread, it's typically only going to be viewed from just one side or the other. So I just, periodically want to cover up one side to just visualize like just the cover or just the back to make sure it looks balanced and I'm not thrown off by the balance of a 2-page spread. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then I'm going to go through with that Jelly Roll pen again, and I'm going to outline like I did the letters with all the circles, and then go through the waves with the white dots. And in general, I tend to overkill details, so I want to keep this kind of right mid-range. So I think I like the way this looks and feels. I like having a lot of solid black space as well, and plenty of color popping out from the back. So I am really super happy with this. Yay! So here it's hard to tell, but the Blacklight paint, it's pretty cool. I don't know if because I used only Blacklight paint on the back that it didn't like totally pop out. But anyway, so here's what the cover looks like. Very happy with it. And then if you flip it over, this is what the back looks like. So what do you think? Leave me a comment. If you like hanging out, be sure to subscribe and come and hang out with me again. I hope you enjoyed watching my process. Have a blessed day.